no action was taken, would entertain a motion to adjourn. I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes.
trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Hueslick,
Yes.
trustee Shear,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
Yeah, okay, thanks all. We are now moving into work session.
And before we do that, I'm not batting 1,000 tonight. I was wrong again. The Kansas Promise Act, Mary Martha, is as it was this year. But the legislation called to have 5 million and include the for-profits and the privates. That's gone. So we are back to 10 million.
And just
For
the
the
community
public.
colleges. Good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
Sorry,
Okay.
me too. Sorry, I was wrong. Okay.
Does Kent have a mic so that Dr. Daniel can hear?
We're having to go straight to the computer, so
Oh, okay.
everybody could project as well as they could.
Okay.
We did ask her if she could hear from certain sides of the room. She couldn't hear Kelly very well. She could hear Aiden over here pretty well, so. That's probably the best thing is if people could just project to the computer. We'll see if we can hear her first, I guess.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, I can hear you guys pretty good.
This would start by just going through the budget update. Start with the operating budget. Notes here, credit hours, local taxes, historical information for 5 years, and then, as far as credit hours, we're planning on having the same number of credit hours next year as this year. Talk about the tuition rates and then in local taxes, you saw the OB1 book. This recommendation, preliminary recommendation, based on 5% valuation increase. Obviously, an estimate at this time. When I did talk to the county about a month ago, they thought that was around the best estimate. I mean, higher or lower. Budget still 3% compensation. So if you go to the next page, this will be the summary. 2025.
We're looking at OB3.
Two.
I would have remembered it. Darn it.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So what we're showing here is the difference between what we showed you last November and our current estimate for the year-end budget. So we're looking at operating revenues being decreased and our expenditure budget. So go to the next page. This is the revenue summary. So from our November estimate, we're actually looking at an increase in our student revenues about 250,000. So we come in better than we had projected in November. We say that, but actually the tuition waivers are a lot greater too. So the net of that is only like $60,000 differs, a little bit of an increase. The state aid, there's no change in that from what we projected in November. They told us what they were. Local taxes, you see, we decreased our estimate. And that's because the current taxes and taxes in process are not coming in at a higher rate as historically we've seen. And we make an estimate of how much we're getting to based on the valuation, and that's coming in lower. I haven't had a chance to follow up with the treasurer or the county clerk on this. Apparently, their collections are lower than they have been in the past. We did increase other income, and that's because our estimate for interest on our investments is going to be higher. So overall, from what we told you in November, the revenues are down 153,000. Looking at the expenditures, that's on the next page. We're still in the current year. We'll talk about next year. So you see there's a number of increases here. These first items like custodial positions have been cut out. We have several enrollment management positions or like Monomatic is a service or software, Red Rock. These are things that we're continuing to do this year, but we're going to pay for them this year, and we anticipate paying for them next year out of the student success money, which we put into a designated account. So it's a reduction to our operating budget. It's not a reduction of an actual expenditure that we're paying for the designated fund instead of out of the operating fund.
So Ken, when did we have bowling?
We never did have bowling, but we budgeted to add a bowling program. And after more thought and more discussion, it never got off the ground. So at the EP, exec council level, we decided to cut it. There was 6,000 new budget EP taken out. Like part-time overload on line 10, but that's based on an estimate that we make at the beginning of the year. Then we adjust that in the fall and in the spring. I think in the fall we might have left it alone, but it becomes clearer as we get closer to the year end, and we feel like we can reduce that by $100,000. Employee benefits, the same thing. We make an estimate at the beginning of the year, and we adjust it during the year. We think we're going to have to add to that $40,000. Just a slight adjustment on debt service, and we increase our scholarship, looks like $500,000. So the net of all of those things, $353,000. So those are the changes that we're making currently. We can go to the next one.
Let's see if I have a question for Ron.
I have a question for Jessica. So those enrollment coaches, when they were hired, they knew it was a temporary job, correct?
2 of them, it is grant funded. 2 are out of the
So we still have 2 employees with us after this 4.
We have 4 still. It's just that the 2 that were originally in the base budget are being shifted to student success fund.
Okay,
So we have a savings.
okay, thank you.
Anticipate that with success funds.
Well, and actually, know that.
But we know the amount,
Yes.
as long as we don't control the cash. We're in. Lines, so it's not that way. It's not 100%.
I will say it's 98% sure.
Yeah.
Wait, cover.
So this is on page 95. What this does is takes the update from OB 2, brings it over here so we can compare it. That's for the 25 year. So we can compare it to our estimation and recommendation for next year's budget. And these numbers, of course, do not include the change that we made to the revenue projection for completion of fees for next year. We'll have to go back and update these before we give you another update. So on the operating revenue, what we're counting on the $113,000 increase from the current year to next year. If you go to the next page,
So we already know the tuition numbers that may change.
They will change.
talk about what this is. The revenue be about $200,000 higher than this, although it will be offset some by but see that based on the $5 across the board recommendation of the major, hoping to increase the net student sources by almost $800,000, so that's going to go up. We know that our state aid is going to go down next year. That's in the state operating grant. We've already been informed of that amount by the state. We're anticipating that the Excel and CPE will remain the same, although we may have to rethink that. I've seen people that you want to talk about it all. It's just up.
There are, help me stay accurate so I don't make 3 mistakes in one night. But there is some discussion about moving a couple of programs from Senate Bill 155. And that is culinary and cosmetology. I don't think we have that many students, if any, in culinary through Senate Bill 155 that in essence covers tuition and fees for high school students. So that impact should be negligible, if any, for us. Regarding CTE, we have now reported to 19 colleges. We have reported to K-Board what's called extraordinary costs beyond instruction. So it would be things like equipment, it could include depreciation. And so we're not sure yet what the extraordinary costs will be associated with our CTE, well, and tiered funding, really.
Certain programs.
Yes.
So basically, this may decrease, but that's going to go up. The Excel CPE of $814,000. But we probably aren't going to sell so far.
And being the optimist, might go up, if not balance one of the.
Yeah, right. So the current, the local taxes here are based, as we said, on a 5% valuation increase and maintaining the mill rate. So we'll have more conversations about that as we move along, I'm sure. The other thing here, we've added $160,000 in other income. That's down on line 21. We're planning to, with a footnote on it, we're planning to implement a convenience fee on credit cards. So I think most of you probably familiar with those kind of fees. I think that's interesting. Yeah, that's what we're paying. And students don't have to pay it. They can do like check, ACH.
Payment plan.
Take away all those points we're getting.
Next page, and for points. So the top section here, you can look at, these are items that you are work in DP and DP group with Dr. Getty. You found seeing
Question on, fleet vehicle increase.
okay.
I thought this is gonna save us
So
lots
we're
of
kind of
money.
talking about the decrease of profit. So
Okay.
look at the increase.
We'll get to the
Okay.
increase.
Okay, you went back to the decreases.
Are there questions? on the increase?
Why is there
No, it's based on demand, and given the growth in our high school courses in particular, early college academies, we need to add an English instructor that was in the budget 2 years ago. We deferred, but the demand is there, and we can't meet the demand without adding that back into the budget. Yes, we do. If we are reallocating the responsibility of Dr. Phil Berry. Really, yeah. This Thursday?
Where?
We can send that out to the board.
Yes.
Jennifer can send it out to the
I
board.
would love that.
Phil is very much looking forward to investing his time and energy in continuing to direct theater. That's his passion. And then I think he has another project that he will take on. But It's bittersweet for him. He's looking forward to the next chapter in his term.
How do we identify the dollar amounts for the, if positions are being eliminated because they're open positions that we're not filling, how come such the variance in how we cost? But it's still, it's from $72 to $100,000 how we're valuing.
It's a cost savings based on their level of education and their salary.
Their salary, the amount of taxes you pay, employer taxes,
These are folks that are leaving, right?
leaving.
We won't replace them at this level.
Some of those positions, if I can.
This just reflects then, this is what the position is today. Okay. That is, thank you.
Talk about. So we've gone to this program of leasing, but we need to keep that level up. Proverbs.
This is beautiful. I'm sure, what is the 90,000?
Yes. But the level. Highly responsible.
I just wondered how it was all going. In vehicles.
It's going fine. Moving 60,000 to line 29 for property and liability. Insurance, I think it's very reasonable within this department. But this consortium that seems to be ahead of the curve on it, so I'm pretty much in this property.
When will we get the numbers?
Well, I actually get the numbers. The way we're in this program, unless we tell them way in advance, they're in. Last year, very small. They're talking about big terms. Very good. Yeah, but I think by next month, I can also tell you that there are good across the state. Good on. So, I'm just sure they've been, insurance companies are getting out of that business.
Well, this is from the consortium, not
Unfortunately, these are projects that were not.
And that consortium, talking to one of the board members, that consortium has increased in the number of school districts and community colleges. It is.
It needs to.
And so, you know, I mean, their goal is to have every school district and every community college in the state is what they told me.
So, keep your fingers crossed. 2 years ago when that was, that's when they had the end of the out the school over there. That hurt. But since then, there have been no really major things. Yeah. Well, it's where we are. Those are the these are the updates for the current budget, recommendation, the current year budget, and recommendations for next year. And on the next page is the OBA. this is where we're looking at this along with the projection for FY '27, given the variables that show up over on page 49, and it presents that the graph that you see there. We've already made some changes. We changed the student revenue. You have a handout, you should have a handout. It shows, the graph that's in your book on OB9 is with the 0 mill levy increase and the 5% valuation increase. The handout shows you what would happen if we only took like half of that valuation increase, or if we didn't take any valuation increase. I'm going to pull up that PDF that I have there so I can project it. See if there are questions you have on that.
So while you look at that, in conversation with Kevin Morgan and given the property tax sentiment within the legislature and across the state, that she is advising community colleges if they're going to take the increase in assessed valuation that they tie it only to the CPI increase. Yeah, the 2.5, and if you will, the rationale is this. The provisos in this last legislative session were surfacing like this, and the proviso that Ken referred to a bit ago regarding not the community colleges not having more than 6 months cash on hand, or they would be ineligible for student success funds, business and industry / apprenticeship funds. So it's not beyond the realm of possibilities that there will be provisos in the next legislative session that focuses on community colleges that are either raising their mill levies or going beyond the CPI index for assessed valuation.
And where are we in the next reserve? We're saying can have 6 months.
Well, Kent is worried about that. I am less worried. I believe we're going to be fine.
We've been for
Right. And
just that they talk
we're
hard way.
But if you look at Kent and how Tabor is reporting where we are, counting it the way they do, we're at 4.9. And there's, at least in my mind, been not compelling reasons to think we would go beyond 6 months at June 30th. Yeah. But there are community colleges that have more than cash on hand because they've been amassing it for projects so they don't have to incur debt. Therefore, they are not getting student success funds or BNI or apprenticeship funds that's coming. Oh, yeah. That was a proviso in about an 11 and a half hour that was tied to community college funding. Basically, yes.
knows. I believe you have I sent you this information here.
The old days of saving for the school or a building, and then building are gone.
At least in the term now.
You have foundation to do the saving for you, and that allow you to buy this.
If you could, that's what no community college should want to do, is take the difference between the 6 months and let's say 9 months or 12 months and move it from the operating budget cash on hand into the foundation. That's kind of the old shell game, smoke and mirrors game. And so, to the best of my knowledge, no college is doing that. They're just foregoing. If they've got more than 6 months, they're foregoing student success and B&I apprenticeship fund.
How many colleges do have this? Can't imagine.
I can think of
Is it Johnson
that
County?
immediately come to mind and maybe 3 because they had building projects in the works. And there may be more than that, just may not.
In the city, did they have a building project?
They-
Or was it?
They do, it's mostly privately funded. I don't know if they're over the 6-month mark, but I do know factually of at least 2 other colleges that are.
How overwhelming is that? Hands down everybody, or is it a little tough?
Well, the dilemma, draw back into the answer, the dilemma, I have to think how to phrase this. The dilemma was that what was at risk was our credit hour state aid that was tied to the proviso. And so if we lobbied not to vote for the proviso, at the same time, we were voting for non-community college funding, and we would have been back to the drawing board again in the 11.5 hours. How close was it? That's likely better answered by Heather Morgan, but I can tell you there were enough votes to pass the proviso. But again, it could have been because the rest of our community college funding was tied to the proviso, and we didn't want to risk the rest of our funding. Because the legislature was an unpredictable issue.
And so you went out and visited. And what was your impression of the people that you talked to?
I think we have strong advocates, but if you look at what happened in Senate Ways and Means, it was a close call. Very close. We are developing a strategic plan with the KACC to heighten our efforts to maintain relationships throughout the year, not just during the legislative session. And while we have some strong advocates, the voices are growing. And it truly is about property taxes and holding the line on taxes mostly.
Fortunately, there's a lot of Sedgwick County representatives that we don't have relationships with.
Susan,
So it's not in
we are fortunate to have Susan Humphrey, and she is a fan of Butler. The former executive director of KACC always used to say there are 2 kinds of people, your friends and those you want to make your friends. And so we're going to do KACC that is going to go full out and making more friends. Got a good cadre, but we need more.
papers.
Well, two things. Um, so not all of our online students are strictly online. I don't have the data, but I can get it.
So, third of our is fully online, another third is.
That-
Filter it out.
So we've got people on our campuses, for whatever reason, maybe it's convenient
I
for
was
them.
talking about.
So there is a blue ribbon committee that was passed in the legislative session this year that will begin to meet, I believe, in the new, now, in the here and now. It is between 13 and 15 members who study the structure of higher ed in the state of Kansas. We are fortunate to have a seat on that. Heather Morgan will represent us. What they're referring to as the big three, KU, K-State, and WSU will have a seat. The regionals will have a seat. The privates will have a seat. Beyond that, I'm not sure what the composition is.
Heather Morgan suggested at the meeting that we went to that basically next year during the legislative session, we have a trustee that's willing to go to the lobby, and this is all 19 colleges, as a representative able to go up and speak at the lobby to help lobby all of the representatives.
A representative?
Representatives and senators.
The entire legislature, if you will. But I think before we do Ready, Fire, Aim, I think Heather will spearhead with some presidents and trustees of strategic plan that will know. And again, we do have friends in the legislature. We need more friends.
So back to the previous point, I think I always heard and just assumed when we did the Andover building, we have house. Around eight.
Turn back the links.
5,000 finishing after 5,000.
Yeah, he,
It was like a $15 million
talking about
package.
the most recent, reached out to South End, we didn't go. Yeah, it was about 40.
Seems that
Well, the sentiment now is that if there's any public money in any type of savings, it's wasting the taxpayers' dollars.
They've always.
Yeah.
They've always.
But that's, Northwest
Over
High
1
School,
billion.
I think in Wichita was the last high school built with capital improvement fund. In
1
70.
billion in cash reserve. Over 1 billion.
okay, so let's
Go back.
come back to this.
All right, I think Heather doesn't get take seriously. I respect it a lot. But onwards, different situations, any of them. I have up on the screen out in front of me. I sent it to you in email. But, you know, what she's saying is, don't take advantage of the valuation. Well, we haven't taken advantage of our valuation for about 5 years. In this first graphic here, that you can see, we have demonstrates that in FY 2020, Butler was at 17 mil. In FY 2025, we were at 13 mil. We went down 4, which is a 23% drop by not taking valuation. The average of the community colleges for all rate 2020 was right at 30, or less than 30. In 2025, it was a little over 29. So went down half a mil, about 1.5. So while all the other colleges basically stayed at revenue neutral, kept their mill levies the same, we went down 23%. And if you look at taxes levied on the next slide, in 2020, we were at 13.5 almost. This year, we went up to about 14.4, change of 960. So we increased over that time by 7%, but the other colleges increased by 27%. So what she's saying is, all of you colleges don't take evaluation. What I'm saying is, I think we need to look at what's happened at Butler in particular when you make that decision whether you go take that.
Do you agree?
I believe that Butler has given more back than any other college so far. And while I think Heather has well intentioned, the risk of losing something, I believe that, we raise tuition way higher than normally we would. We've made over $1 million cuts from our budget. We're going to be faced with more cuts. If you look at the graph, it's still going down. And so we're going to have a new president coming in here faced with talking about more budget cuts. We're afraid to just keep the mill levy the same. I believe it's in the best interest of the college to keep the mill levy the same and take advantage of the valuation.
I understand what you're saying. Is the sense I get is that what Heather's recommending is coming from her read of the room.
Well,
Is Topeka are they gonna bother to do anything other than scratch the surface to figure out why Butler increased, why Butler took the full valuation, or are they just gonna use us as a lightning rod?
Are you sure Butler lowers valuation, but they're not going to treat us just like everybody else?
I think
Well, I think the worst case scenario is that you lower the mill levy, don't take the valuation, and then the state comes in and says, okay, for the next 2-3 years, you're going to be capped here. Butler's going to be capped at a lower spot than anybody else comparatively.
Yeah, I think the risk is this, and Kent and I are viewing this through 2 different lenses. The risk that I worry about is, and if we take beyond the CPI for the assessed valuation, and it may be a really small risk, I want the board to go into it eyes wide open. There could be a proviso attached to our funding for FY 27 that punishes those colleges who took the complete increase. Maybe that won't happen, but again, the board should go into this eyes wide open and weigh where we are with the budget, where we've been, and looking in a crystal ball for next year,
Which
or
committee?
hedging your bets.
Which committee is this?
Well, it probably Senate Ways
And who's chair?
J.R. Clay, Salina, and he was not favorable towards the community college funding package we got this year.
and bring it on. Instead of just constantly thinking about these cuts and all of this, we need to reposition ourselves to find other funding streams and to increase this again. It's the only thing. We have the ability to control. We have to work harder at the moment. We have to look for other funds, partnerships, and things like that, because, I mean, there's a lot of things created up to make up some of these differences that we really can't. So, and I think if we don't do that, that would be full foolish and what everybody else is. So we said in the meeting earlier that CPR is 3%. I'm in favor of taking the levy increase and working hard to do the other things by 2027. Seeing if it brings other dollars to the table, if we get some cuts, okay. Because when we increase enrollment, we're going to get the state aid back that we were losing, correct? Because our enrollment was down over the year average. Now, if you can think better plan. Anytime we make other changes, but I'm telling you, I'm still convinced we've left a lot of grant dollars on the table. I mean, it only took me 15 minutes to see what a bunch of other community colleges have been getting in. So, I mean, the one time maybe to get some funds, that we need to look at creating partnerships. We need to be offering what employers want us to do in regards to training for employees, make those partnerships count, and increase enrollment, and adjust classes and everything else in the meantime. Maybe I'm too optimistic.
Well, I agree that we cannot, expenditures only will not get us where we need to go. It's got to be a combination of being as efficient as we are, 17 lower, but also looking at other areas where we can be more efficient, but also being open to opportunities for generating new revenue, because it is highly unlikely that our state aid for next year will grow significantly.
I don't know that it's necessarily a bad thing that the state is taking a hard look at what's going on, because from what I've been told and sitting in this chair, that they changed how they funded everything 20 years ago, and it used to be passed evenly across the state. Now it falls on the counties that are there. So something big does need to happen. We're no longer in an environment where we're only competing with the college next door. When the whole world can go to school online wherever they want to go, the whole playing field has changed. So, we need to make a decision, but I'm actually glad that the state is sitting back and saying, hey, something's not right here, because we can sit here and compare our mill levy to other community college counties, but all I do in my industry is compare it to Civic County. It sucks because it just fully hinders our growth as a county. And that's not this institution's fault. That's the way that the state has put this model together. So something does need, hopefully.
That's what we different. Because 60% of it, think of what that 60% is being used for, is to lower our property taxes in El Dorado. Huh?
From this point, if we don't aggressively get grants and partnerships, our school is responsible. But we can say that it's not the same, but competition.
schools that are astronomically easier to work within than ours, then that's a problem,
Absolutely.
you know, and that's what I'm saying, I don't know, hopefully look at it and figure something out, because this just feels like bad solution when they're a little less bad, a little less bad, pick that, like, okay. So, frustrating.
That assessment, from my perspective, was accurate. Which solution is the least harmful?
At least risky, but fine risk.
Yeah.
You can't, because it all depends on what might happen in the future, 9 months from now.
Well, and then the gubernatorial election is,
No.
is that a word?
Oh, yeah, please don't.
You have more that you want us to know about.
I think it's probably,
It's still light outside. You gotta remember lots of times.
not to make it just that July warming, whether or not you give a chance for July election, that, but got some thoughts and some ideas. That, I'm not, there's more information I can bring to you. But I don't know.
I would like to see a position added though in our budget, and that would be a grant writer.
We have one in the budget. We have one in the budget. And this gentleman over there, that grant writer falls in his position. Posted.
We're,
Well, but part of the reason, and maybe it was at my encouragement, so Dr. Daniel, I hope you can hear me. I thought it would be advantageous to get some input from the new president. That we fully intend to onboard a brilliant person soon. Right?
I'm sorry, did I mention
I've been thinking that long word.
Well, okay. Well, that would be a budget saving, since we can't pay a trustee that.
I'm thinking this is a.
Did we go over, the 5% value increase? I had a question, line 7 additional taxes. That's annually not.
This handout.
Right, I think that
taxes.
What father is I really want to take the opportunity to commend these people back here. They did heavy lifting and cut 1.1 million from the operating budget. So kudos to them.
Thank you.
One thing.
here,
I mean, seriously, this is.
The special meeting ended up running long. Yeah.
Well,
Very
and
well.
you did too. Good discussion tonight. About the trustees.
I'm sorry, I think we answered the question. I was just pointing on your, I don't even know what page it is, I'm sorry. On the. It's
One of
on
the,
the first
one of the
page,
attachments to your Friday email.
yeah,
First
that
page.
additional taxes. Down at the bottom line 7 is $19, and that's annually, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Not saying.
Taking just the.
That's just the-
Right.
I have one more thing to say. For you trustees who didn't make it to the Air Force Base, and Shelby, I was really hoping you were there. It was top notch. They commended us whenever they needed a class. We responded to them, we had a class ready to go. They bent over backwards for us, and there were several of you guys that, and it wasn't it fantastic? Oh my gosh,
Well, and the colonel,
kudos to all of you.
we had only been tracking credit hours for X years. I cannot remember what Colonel Baldwin said. It was, no, people we had served, 6,000. He said, but if you go back since our inception, he predicted we had helped more than 20,000 airmen, airwomen, and their dependents. And it has made an incredible difference in their lives.
And
Thank you for being here.
yes, and the stories from the military mother and from the military man. Oh my gosh, just made me laugh. Yes, we're doing right. We're doing right out here.
Butler is doing a lot of things right, and while we've got challenges, here's my speech, we need to not forget to remember to celebrate what's right with Butler, because there's lots that is right with Butler, and we'll invest energy to fix what's wrong.
And the purple ceremony that we went to on Thursday, the athletic purple ceremony was wonderful. And here's the softball team first semester had a 3.5 GPA cumulative, and the baseball team had a highest. Yeah. And so that was really a neat evening, and the kids, I think, really enjoyed it. There was some that really stayed around a long time. I mean,
And
Matt,
we're
you guys,
dressed to the nines.
the athletic department did a great job, and you guys putting it on BCTV Plus. And I will also say, I attended a softball game, and Doane College from Nebraska came down with a group of individuals, and I met Miss IT Christina, and they had like 5 or 6 people looking at our BCTV Plus with the trailer, with all the cameras, with all of the kids that were around there to duplicate and replicate it up in Nebraska. Man, if somebody's stealing from us, that's a good thing.
Want royalty.
Well, that may be a discussion later.
We don't need to adjourn the work session, so
Good.
we are.
Thank you
all
all.
done. Yes,
Thank
thanks.
you. Thank you
Thanks
for
for
the
everybody
sandwiches.
sticking around. Sorry for the